guy can't take rejection and starts insulting me. I first met Alex in my first year of university. He and I seemed to click in those early days. He had this easygoing charm, or so it appeared. And I guess I liked that he didn't seem to take life too seriously. He was good looking, or at least he seemed to think so, and there was always a small crowd around him, talking about something trivial, like the latest party or some random drama on campus. During that first year, we were just casual friends, the type who'd sit in the same row in lecture halls sometimes, or grab coffee after class, exchanging small talk about exams or professors. By the time the second year rolled around, though, I started noticing that he was dealing with some emotional turmoil. He'd been seeing a girl who decided she preferred someone else. Someone Alex found far less attractive than himself. Alex basically lost it over that. He'd ask me on a near daily basis, why would she go for that guy instead of me? Sometimes I'd try to console him, reminding him that attraction can't be boiled down to facial features or muscle tone. Maybe she clicked with the other guy's personality. He couldn't fathom that possibility. He just moped, repeating that he was better looking, had money, etc. I tried my best to offer some kind words, but I noticed an underlying arrogance that made me a little uneasy. During that phase, he started flirting with me a lot. At first I ignored it. I've been dating my boyfriend, I'll call him Chris, for a while, and I made it clear to Alex that I wasn't interested in anything beyond friendship. But Alex kept tossing out these half-joking, half-serious lines about we'd look cute together, or I could take you out, stuff like that. Because we saw each other infrequently, maybe he sensed I was distancing myself. It was somewhat manageable. I'd just sidestep his remarks. If he insisted, I'd change the topic or mention my boyfriend more explicitly. Then this one day we were in class, and he plopped right down next to me. It was one of those big lecture halls where everyone picks the same seat every day. But he came out of nowhere to my row, sat directly at my side, and struck up conversation. Eventually, in his usual roundabout way, he asked me on a date. He said he wanted to get coffee, dinner, and a movie in one fell swoop, like some big extravaganza. I tried to be gentle. I'm sorry, Alex, but I'm already dating someone. That was when his entire demeanor shifted. It was like flipping a switch from suave, confident dude to unfiltered hostility. He asked for a photo of my boyfriend. I hesitated, but foolishly, I scrolled through my phone and showed him a picture of Chris. Right away, Alex began mocking Chris's appearance, acting as though he was some subpar, unimpressive guy. Then he asked where Chris was from. I told him, and he made some disparaging comment about that country. The whole thing was bizarre. It was as if he decided, if I can't have her, I'll degrade the boyfriend she does have. He implied that I must be desperate if I'm dating someone less good-looking than him, according to his skewed standards. Mind you, I find Chris extremely attractive, and beyond that, I love him for his personality, kindness, and the way he stood by me through tough times. But to Alex, none of that mattered. I calmly told him, I'm not desperate. I've been asked out by plenty of guys, but I chose Chris for reasons far beyond looks. And by the way, I think he's quite handsome. That's when Alex muttered something about how he could humble me, like he was bestowing some grand lesson on me. That part made my skin crawl. This was the same guy who, 5 minutes earlier, was all about wanting to date me. But the second he heard no, he tried to tear me down. To top it off, he started bad-mouthing a mutual friend of ours, laughing awkwardly. I suspect he just couldn't stand the idea that someone else had succeeded where he failed. All I could do in that moment was stare in disbelief. I think I mumbled wow, okay. And then the lecture ended. We parted ways, and I seethed internally about how he'd crossed so many lines in just a few minutes. Then, not long after, I found out he'd been telling mutual acquaintances that I'm always depressed and mopey. This was especially painful because I lost my father last year, and that's why I've had occasional bouts of sadness or withdrawal. For him to trivialize or gossip about my grief, just to sabotage my image, was downright cruel. It's not like I go around broadcasting my personal pain, but he somehow used whatever glimpses he'd caught and twisted them into a rumor. Let me paint a clearer picture of Alex. He's got money. Family money, I believe. And he never fails to act like that entitles him to certain privileges. He has a track record of hooking up with women, then discarding them when bored. Or so I've heard from others. He's got a mountain of backlogs academically, which he never seems worried about because he assumes Daddy can bail him out. So when he told me, "Go be with your unattractive boyfriend," it came layered with entitlement, like he believed his wealth or looks should override my personal choice. He'd complimented me on my hair just days before, yet now that I turned him down, he sneered, "Your hair's not that great, you know." Childish, right? It reminded me of a little kid on the playground who gets told, "No," and stomps away yelling, "I never liked you anyway." So that evening when I got home, my anger crystallized. I realized, I don't have to let this stand. I typed out a long message to him, laying out exactly what was wrong with his behavior. Normally, I might just block someone silently. But this time I felt compelled to articulate why he was out of line. And once I finished, I blocked him. The text said something like, "I don't like how you talk to me today. It's not your right to comment on my preferences or ridicule my boyfriend's looks. You keep laughing at where he's from. But maybe that's easy for you because you come from privilege, and you find everything funny. I'm not desperate. I know exactly who I am, and his appearance is wonderful in my eyes. Also, I heard you're telling people I'm always depressed. Did you forget I lost my father last year? You have no idea how that feels. It's sad that you can't comprehend how painful grief can be. But I wouldn't wish that pain on you. You told me you could humble me. No thanks. I am fully aware of my worth." And finally, maybe this is harsh, but I think you should reflect on why that girl you liked chose someone else. It might not be about looks after all. Maybe it's about your attitude or your spite. Meanwhile, my boyfriend, is there for me in ways you can't even understand. Money doesn't buy class or empathy, and I just don't need negative energy like yours around me. So I'm cutting ties. Peace. After I sent that, it was like a weight lifted. This was probably my first time ever standing up so directly against a toxic person in my life. I've always been somewhat conflict averse, maybe a little timid about confrontation, but something about the way Alex treated me, mocking my partner and trivializing my grief, made me snap. The thought that he'd walk away thinking he had the upper hand. No, I couldn't let him keep that illusion. Not that I wanted a protracted fight. I simply wanted my say. I wanted him to know he crossed a line. I don't expect him to see my words and magically transform. He might dismiss it, or lash out again if he finds another way to contact me. Though I blocked him, but it was crucial for me to make a statement. For my own peace of mind. That clarity. No, you don't get to treat me or my boyfriend like that. And you don't get to gossip about my mental health. It's liberating. Friends ask, "Does he still bother you?" I don't know. Maybe he's whining about me to others. Maybe he's off sulking. But the important part is I'm no longer shrinking away from such behavior. If he can't handle rejection, if he can't process that women have the right to choose a partner for reasons beyond superficial measures, that's his problem. I won't coddle him. I tried being a friend. Heck, I consoled him when he was heartbroken. But that's over. It's one thing to be hurt. It's another to lash out and belittle someone else's relationship. I do feel a twinge of pity, ironically. He invests so much in his appearance, his wealth, his sense of entitlement. He's stuck in a loop of thinking, if I'm good-looking and rich, everyone should want me. When reality contradicts that, he lashes out. But pity only goes so far. Once he attacked my boyfriend's country, or started spreading rumors about my emotional state, pity gave way to anger. Enough is enough. So that's the gist. I found a way to fight back against a guy who refused to handle rejection gracefully. He learned he couldn't rattle me by insulting my partner or my mental health. I spelled out how offensive he was, then removed him from my life. That might seem small compared to bigger dramas out there, but for me, it was a milestone in setting boundaries. Sometimes you need that one experience, someone crossing the line so blatantly that you realize it is okay to push back. You don't owe them politeness or a long explanation. Sometimes a sharp, well-articulated "no thanks" is exactly what's needed. Let him stew in his illusions, or hopefully, one day wake up to how mean and shallow he sounds. As for me, I've moved on. My relationship with my boyfriend feels stronger, because honestly we're happy together, and don't need some random guy's hotness rating to validate us. I continue to grieve my father in my own way, without shame, and I refuse to let a jerk exploit my vulnerability. In the end, it's a small story but a meaningful one. It's about recognizing that not everyone deserves your kindness or your patience, especially not someone who flips from flirting to insulting the moment you say, "Non, life's too short to let such toxicity linger." I'm glad I stood my ground, said my piece, and walked away. That's the real victory?